Hi, I'm Tim Carson with Vocal Artistry, and welcome to October's conversation. Got an email this month from Rebecca. She lives just outside of LA, and she wrote, "I've taught voice lessons for some time now. I do a lot of reading on voice, and while I understand keeping the throat free of tension, one of the things I don't recall in my training is keeping the larynx still while singing. I'm trying to understand this approach and if it is something that you recommend." It's a great question. You know, I work almost exclusively with pop and rock singers who are singing in that more contemporary style. And one of the things that they're notorious for doing is using the muscles around the larynx to tighten and squeeze the larynx to help them usually sing higher or louder. What this does is it constricts the throat, so the space in the back of the throat is constricted. The muscles here get tight and the larynx rises up. So yeah, as a general rule, we want to keep the larynx in a still position. We want to keep it down. We don't want it to raise up as we sing. Now, one of the ways that we do this, one of the really important things, particularly for pop and rock singers, singers singing in more of a contemporary style, even jazz and musical theater, that style in itself requires a slightly raised larynx. So it's really critical that when you're working out your voice, which is something that all of us should be regularly doing, regular vocal exercises to just get the voice in the gym and keep it worked out, keep it in shape. As you're doing that, sing those vocal exercises with a classical style. You know, when you're singing a scale, sing ah. You know, don't sing it in more of that pop style. Ah. You want to sing it in that classical style, because one of the things that classical style does is it keeps the larynx down. Here's my larynx right here, and watch what happens as I sing in that more classical style. Ah, that kind of yawn feeling in the back of the throat drops the larynx right down. So we want to do two things as we're exercising and practicing scales in that classical style. One, we want to strengthen the muscles that hold the larynx in place, because they're not going to get any workout when we're singing in our pop contemporary style. And we want to memorize that feeling of that more open, expansive throat. What that'll allow us to do is that when we go for those high notes in our pop and contemporary style, pop rock style, jazz, musical theater, non-classical style, we can give a little bit more depth and openness to the tone. We don't have to squeeze and tighten those muscles, raise the larynx up, and lose that space in the back of the throat when we go up to that part of our range. We can still keep some depth in the tone. Now, the pop and rock style, that more contemporary style, will require the larynx to rise up just a little bit. Watch what happens to the larynx as I sing in more of a contemporary style. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's... See, the larynx rises up just a little bit, differently than when I'm singing in that classical style. Oh, there it stays down. What happens for contemporary singers is because they're always singing in that contemporary style, those muscles that hold the larynx down and that feeling, that coordination of space in the back of the throat, that's elusive. They never work on that. As you work on those exercises in that classical style, strengthens those muscles down and keeps the larynx from rising up. When you don't practice on it, the larynx rises up too much and that space constricts. So you get something like, oh, say, can you see by... You know, everything's really constricted there and tight and gets that whiny tone. We want to have depth on the top part of our range. We want some of that openness. Not as far as we do in the classical style, but we want those muscles to activate, to be strong, so that in that top part of our range, say, can you see by the dawn, by... So it doesn't have to tighten up and squeeze, but we can find space and openness by keeping the larynx down. By the dawn's early light. So the key for us is, in regards to the larynx and singers in that more contemporary pop, rock, jazz, musical theater styles, is make sure you're regularly vocalizing your voice. And when you do those vocal exercises, sing in that classical tone to strengthen those muscles, keep that larynx down in a still position rather than rising up in the throat.